4 more. All of these have been very good. So let's continue to pray for them. Okay, Table, you're up next.
So I'll start off by saying I'm 3 times 5. Mix it up a bit. Some of you are waking up now. All right. First off, I'd like to thank our parents who let us go to this camp. This is my 8th year going to camp, my 3rd year of teen camp. And I'd have to say that all around, in every category, this was probably the best year. From preaching to food and the games, and obviously fellowship with other teens, believers. And I'd like to thank Greater Vancouver for hosting the camp, 26th year. Pastor Connor for putting up with us for a full week. And I'd like to thank the church for praying for us while we were gone. They were. And, Tuesday morning, Brother Mike Collin preached on Samson, as John mentioned, and preached on how Samson had many difficulties, obviously, with his life. And he had a problem with authority. He wouldn't listen to his parents. His parents said not to choose a certain woman to marry. And he rebelled. And he had a problem with atmosphere. He went down to Timnath. Every time that Samson went down, it was usually to a bad place. And also had a problem with acquaintances. Obviously, Delilah. That was obviously the wrong acquaintance. And on Wednesday morning, I preached on the topic of choosing the right major. We talked about how King Josiah, at a young age, chose to follow God's will and do what's right. And how Josiah majored on God, he majored on God's holiness, he majored on God's house, and he majored on God's holy word. And I thought that message meant a lot to all of us, because sometimes we have the wrong focus in life and we don't realize what we're supposed to really be having our focus on. The focus needs to be on the Bible, needs to be on God. On Thursday night, we preached on getting out of the boat. And at the invitation, I'd say about half the building left out to be dealt with. I'm sure a lot of the people who were inside who didn't leave praying. And the message meant the most to me, because I think sometimes as teenagers we tend to rebel against what our parents have said and fear certain things that might be, as Kevin mentioned, trivial. Fear going on the SkyTrain and passing out flyers, or fear going to door to door and knocking on the door. Fear was behind the door. And obviously, contentment, getting too content with where our Christian life is. You should never be content with where you are in Christian life. You should always strive to want more. Always try to serve the Lord more. And, games were fun. On Thursday night, we did your annual bucket ball. And it's a very physical game. Basically, it's a mix of basketball and football combined. And in fact, a guy in our cabin suffered from a mild concussion, getting slammed on the concrete. And yeah, it was not very pretty. This is the second year that me, Chris, and Kevin are put in the same cabin. I say put because we can be troubles. Sometimes we get together. And we've actually been put in the same cabin, hotel room. We were in the same hotel room in Portland 1 year with Brother Raybert. We were in the same dorm room in California. And that was interesting. And obviously twice in teen camp. Cabin inspection, obviously every morning you have to clean your cabin. For some of us that's very tough to do. In fact, one of the guys in our cabin, his idea of cleaning was just putting a suitcase on the bed and strewing out the floor, strewing out all the clothes all over the floor. So me and Chris were kind of in charge of cleaning up the cabin. And I got a 10 on my sweeping, out of 10. And yeah. Brother Holland said one last thing before we left on Friday. He told us that camp can be sometimes considered as a spiritual bubble. When we come to camp, we leave our iPods, we leave our movies, we leave our bad friends, we leave video games that we probably shouldn't be playing. And we come to camp and we have godly influences, we have good godly friends. We have our counselor, Pastor Mackay was a counselor this year. And obviously we have the camp speaker and the host. And go to camp, you make decisions, and then you come back and that bubble's lifted because you're coming back to those bad decisions, to those bad things that you have in your house. And when that spiritual bubble gets lifted, all those decisions that we made to get rid of those things are waiting for us at home. And if we don't, choose to get rid of those things, it can end up ruining our lives. Continue to pray that we would keep our decisions we made this past week, and that we would, as we've heard 4 times, twice here at church and twice at camp, that we would put on the armor of God. I think that this week obviously we were supposed to hear that message several times, and that we put it on daily, and that we would strive to be like Christ every day. Every day that we have left here on earth. I have one last thing. I'd like to do just a quick poll. Thursday night we had the last candy shop thing, and Jeffrey bought 12 cans of pop. Yeah, we had a guy in our cabin who bought 22 cans of pop. But so Jeffrey had I think a tough time this week. He had about 3 things that were just kind of, he just was having a tough time. So Friday morning me, Chris, and Kim were deciding what Mrs. Bugg's reaction would be to when she picked him up. So by raise of hands, I'm going to read 4 selections, and raise your hand on which one do you think she would be upset with. So the first one is she would see that he broke his glasses and would not be really happy. So how many think that that's the reason why? Okay. Secondly, she would see the 12 cans of pop and get really mad. Okay. She would see the big bag of candy that he had and get even more mad. Or lastly, all of the above. Okay, that was everybody's answer. Thanks.